that she had 86 reincarnations on Earth. As a traditional psychotherapist, Dr. Brian Weiss had never believed in reincarnation before and was astonished and skeptical when he discovered Catherine's past lives experiences. After careful validation, Dr. Brian Weiss confirmed the existence of reincarnation and published the famous book, Many Lives, Many Masters. Dr. Weiss states in the preface of the book that every word in this book is true. Catherine worked as a laboratory technician in the hospital of psychiatry. Her religion was simple and unquestioned. She was raised to believe in traditional Catholic ideology and practices. She did not have very high education, and her mind was unsophisticated. She was not familiar with the concept of reincarnation and never believed it. At the time she met Dr. Weiss, she was only 29 and had a boyfriend whose name was Stuart. Catherine said that she was afraid of Stuart, that somehow harm would come from him. Catherine suffered panic attacks and anxiety. Her life had always been burdened with fears. She feared water, fearing choking to the extent that she could not swallow pills. Feared the dark and being closed in a narrow space. She was terrified of dying. She always had recurrent nightmares and sometimes sleepwalking episodes. Dr. Weiss decided to use hypnosis technique to help Catherine reduce her phobias and anxieties. Under Dr. Weiss' instruction, Catherine entered a deep hypnotic trance. She began to describe what she was seeing. I see wide steps leading up to a big, wide building. There are no doorways. I'm wearing a long dress. My name is Aranda. I'm 25. The year is 1863 BC. That was almost 4,000 years ago. We know that Aristotle lived 2,300 years ago, and Buddha Shakyamuni lived 3,000 years ago. Catherine continued, we live in a valley. There is no water. The area is barren, hot, and sandy. I have a girl child whose name is Callistra. She is Rachel. Rachel is presently her niece. They have always had an extremely close relationship. Such affinity apparently had a root in their previous lives. A flood is devastating the village, Catherine went on. There are big waves knocking down trees. There is no place to run. The water is cold. I have to hold my baby tight. I drown. The water chokes me. I can't breathe. I can't swallow. Salty water. My baby is torn out of my arms. Catherine was gasping and having difficulty breathing. Dr. Weiss tried to comfort her. The disaster is over. Relax. Suddenly, her body relaxed completely, and her breath became deep and even. After this session, Catherine's fear of water gradually disappeared. In another session, Catherine entered the hypnotic trance and began to speak. I'm a boy, and my hair is blonde. Strange hair. We are somewhere in the Netherlands, around 1473. There are boats like canoes, brightly painted. We have weapons, spears, slings, bows, and arrows. It is dark. I'm afraid. My people are killing the enemies. I am not. I do not want to kill. My knife is in my hand. Suddenly, she began to gurgle and gasp for breath. Catherine reported later that an enemy fighter had grabbed her from behind, around the neck, and had slit her throat with his knife. Catherine saw the face of her killer before she died. It was Stuart. He looked different then, but she knew it was he. As I mentioned earlier, Stuart was Catherine's boyfriend in her present life. I'm floating away from my body. I have no body. I am in spirit. I'm waiting for the masters to come. Catherine continued to say. Then, abruptly, her voice became loud and husky, as if someone was speaking using Catherine's mouth. You are correct in assuming this is the proper treatment. You are correct in assuming this is the proper treatment for those in the physical state. You must eradicate fear from their minds. It is only on the surface that troubles lie. You must help these patients reach their souls in a level very, very deep, where they no longer can feel their bodies. I want to add here that Dr. left one lifetime, and before she entered another lifetime, she often saw or heard some spiritual beings. They spoke to Dr. Wise through Catherine's mouth. Dr. Wise called them the masters. These masters' speeches were full of wisdom and philosophy and could not be possibly expressed from Catherine's unsophisticated mind. Dr. Wise taped down all the sayings of these masters and published them in a best-selling book, Messages from the Masters. Back to Catherine's hypnotic trance. The master continued to speak through Catherine's tongue. To have a body is abnormal. Only the spiritual state is natural. Spirits do not feel pain, but only happiness. This idea is analogous to the statement of Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism, around 2,500 years ago